Okay. Hello, YouTube. I am live on YouTube to continue with Boot.dev functional programming with Python. I have the Boot.dev webpage over here. I have a text editor here where I can take notes. Or if I want to, I can pop up a terminal, run quick Python file tests or something. In fact, while I'm thinking of it, I have this text editor in a new user. So let's make a let's make a Python file in the editor. And we want to create that. And when I open it, that should kick off some. Oh, maybe it already did all the Python stuff. Seems okay. Also, I may want a virtual environment wrapping around this text editor, but that can happen later. For now, I may just do everything on the website. So, I already finished a couple of these. I was doing some Boot.dev study away from YouTube. So I will just review this part of it. Function transformations. Function transformations is just a more concise way to describe a specific type of higher order function. It's when a function takes a function or functions as input and returns a new function. Let's look at an example. This mul function, probably mul for multiply, into self-math higher order function returns a square function. And you can think about how multiply relates to square. And in a similar way, you can think about how add relates to double. I'm going to jump ahead to the assignment. The assignment was to define a function logger inside a getLogger function. Okay, they probably gave me the getLogger starter, like a function stub. Anyway, getLogger. And we define logger of first and second. It prints a formatter on first and then second. I don't really remember this, but it'll be easier for me to focus if it's something that's new to me. So let's just jump. Sorry you didn't see these ones, but let's jump forward to Y transform. You might be wondering, when would I use function transformation in the real world? Isn't it simpler to just define functions at the top level of code and call them as needed? Good question. To be clear, we don't just transform functions at runtime for the fun of it. We only use advanced techniques like function transformation when they make our code simpler than it would otherwise be. I mean, function definition at runtime that's some power. You can do a lot of things with that. There we go with that. Code reusability. Creating variations of the same function dynamically can make it a lot easier to share common functionality. Take a look at this formatter function. It accepts a pattern and returns a new function that formats text according to that pattern. Define formatter of pattern. Define inner func of text, which returns some result. We say the result is empty string, I is 0, a while loop, until length of pattern. Well, I less than length of pattern. Yeah. If pattern, some condition, result plus equals text, I plus equals 1. Else result plus equals pattern I, what's happening here? I plus equal 1. My brain is fogging over on this one. But let's work it out. Return result. The result will have been some pattern. Let's look at the example so we know what kind of data is going into this function. Now we can create new formatters easily. Bold formatter equals oh, I see. Maybe I see. Bold formatter equals formatter star star curly braces star star. Italic formatter is a single star on either side, and bullet point formatter is a star and a space, then those things. And use some like print the bold formatter on hello. It puts hello in bold. Put the italic formatter on hello. It makes it italic. Put the bullet formatter there's a okay. So I think is pattern a string? How are we handling pattern? Okay. It is a string. At each index of the string, we look whether the slice from I to I plus 2 is equal to the curly braces. In the bold formatter, that'll happen when I is 0, 1, 2. And that'll happen in the middle of this accumulation. We put our text in there. Otherwise, we put just index I of the pattern string into the result. In either case, we iterate forward, but interestingly, we iterate twice forward here to get over the hump of a second curly brace. That's clever. That's how it manages to handle the case of there is nothing after the curly braces in the bullet point formatter. Clever. I like this example. Let's make some, write a note to remind myself about this. Oops. Closures. 90% of the time when I use function transformations, this is Lane talking here. It's because I want to create a closure. We'll talk about closures in the next chapter. Couldn't we just explicitly define bold formatter, italic formatter, and bullet point formatter as normal functions? Yes, but it would probably require more code. That's the answer. And look at that. We've got our daily streak. Very good. Okay, function transformation practice. Let's do some practice. Assignment. Complete the get filter CMD function. It takes two functions as input, filter 1 and filter 2, and returns the function filter CMD. Is that filter command or filter combined? Filter CMD should take as input two strings, content and option. Oh, like a switcher. Set the default value of the option argument to --1. Okay. All right. Default value equal quote --one. Yes. Complete the filter command so that it filters and returns the content according to the option. If 1, use filter 1. If 2, use filter 2. If 3, use filter 1 first, then filter 2. Okay, yeah. One or the other, or porque no los dos. Sure. So, if option equals R1, we... Now, am I going to write a return in each of these, or am I going to return at the end? Let's return here. Return. Now, am I at the level of returning the result of filter 1? Or am I at the level of returning filter 1 so it can be used later? Let's look at the test. Replace bad, replace ellipsis. Submit cases, and lots more cases. Def test. Filter CMD equals this. Result equals filter command on case. And case was a string. So we're supposed to be giving them now wait a second. How do we compose functions in Python? This is kind of tricking me out. Maybe I can do a combined function. So in that case, might as well write the elif option that's gonna look better. Except I typed retrun. That's not quite it. There we go. When the editor colors don't look right, that's when it's time to take an extra close look. Is this making any sense? Oh, I don't know. On pack case 0 and filter 1, filter 2. Let's keep rough and riffing with this. Filter 1 is something of the type replace bad, which takes a text and returns so. Oops, why didn't it indent for me? Well, maybe that's okay. Wait, which one do we apply first? Filter 1 on text, then filter 2 on text. I think this is like getting around to the idea. Let's try it. Elif colon, that's why my indentation wasn't working right. Let's fix that. Fail. All right, what'd I do? Oh wait, I've defined the inner func, I need to return it. Also, we need an else raise. They don't tell me what type of exception, so we'll do a generic one. It's funny that I forgot to do that. Run. What? Well, that's not right. Oh. The function that they call is expected to return text, so we're supposed to call this on content. I was confused about what I was supposed to be doing. That's better. Now, do we be brave and just submit it now? Filter CMD is the function we're returning. This is like more layers than I can seem to store in active memory very effectively. But I think I got it, so let's try it. Yep, that's right. Nice. Chapter 6, closures. The course mentioned closures earlier, and I feel pretty good about us getting on to closures. Okay, a closure is a function that references variables from outside its own function body. The function definition and its environment are bundled together in a single entity. Put simply, a closure is just a function that keeps track of some values from the place where it was defined, no matter where it is executed later on. Example, the concatter. The mad concatter feels like Mad Hatter. The concatter function returns a function called docBuilder, yay higher order functions, that has a reference to an enclosed doc value. Let's look at it. Def concatter, doc equals empty string, def docBuilder of word, non-local, tells Python to use the doc variable from the enclosing scope, non-local doc. Doc plus equal word plus empty string, return doc, return doc builder. Define the doc builder, return the doc builder. Save the returned doc builder function to the new function Harry Potter aggregator, okay? Harry Potter aggregator equals concatenator Harry Potter aggregator Mr. Harry Potter aggregator and. This feels like some black magic. Or maybe some just normal wizarding magic, I don't know. Print Harry Potter aggregator of drive. Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4 privet drive. This feels unintuitive and also, isn't it like pretty side effect prone or side effect ridden? I thought earlier in the course we were talking about no side effects. Well, let's go on. When concatenate called, it creates a new stateful function that remembers the value of its internal doc variable. Each successive call to Harry Potter aggregator appends to that same doc. So does the doc variable live in Harry Potter aggregator? Or is it like it lives in concatenator and Harry Potter aggregator has to look back to concatenator every time? I don't know. When concatenator is called, it creates a new stateful, I read that, non-local. Python has a keyword called non-local that's required to modify a variable from an enclosing scope. Most programming languages don't require this keyword, but Python does. Assignment. Doc2doc keeps track of how many words are in a collection of documents. Complete the word count aggregator document. It should return a function that calculates the number of words in its input. Doc, a string. Doc is a string. Should add that number to an enclosed count variable and return the new count. In other words, it keeps a total running total of the count variable within a closure. Here we were aggregating on a string, putting more content in the string. Here, I think we're aggregating on a count variable. And then somewhere inside, it's going to be like count plus equals 1. This should echo what we have here, where doc plus equal, doc plus equal word plus doc, right? We also are going to end up returning the count so we can use it later. Let's call it doc counter. And it takes a doc that is a string. But why does the doc matter? Oh, okay. So if we take length of doc.split, and I'm using the default no args on split because I think that'll give us the type of answer they want. And we're not incrementing by 1. We're incrementing by the length that we put in. That's actually, we're not counting docs, we're counting words. let's call this word counter. And here we return word counter, right? Let's do that, give that a quick run. Not quite. Oh, yeah, yes. Cannot access local variable count where it is not associated with a value. See what I did? Made a mistake here. I defined count as 0 here. And then I ran a count plus equals count here, which is like saying count equals count plus whatever. And the interesting thing here is the code looks for a value of count, but I haven't defined it inside the scope of word counter. And the way to do that is the incantation non-local on count. And there it goes. Yes. Remove this. Clean things up. Check it again. Yeah, I didn't change anything like functional there. And we do it. Yes. Good stuff. Closure review. The whole point of a closure is that it's stateful. It's a function that remembers the values from the enclosing scope even after the enclosing scope has finished executing. What happens if we call concatter twice? Closures are not pure functions. They can mutate state outside of their scope and have side effects. Like if we did a Harry Potter aggregator and a Mary Sue aggregator, both pulled from concatter, I think they would mingle. I kind of want to, let's just put this here. Maybe to do later. Create two aggregators from one concatter and see if they share. I think they will share state. Chapter 6 up to okay. A closure blank the value of a variable outside its body can change. That's what non-local does. A function that changes non-local variables is not a pure function. It's just not. Closure practice. Remember, a closure is a function that retains the state of its environment. That makes it useful for tracking data as it changes over time, but it can come at the cost of understandability. New challenge variable, get remotes and pull, interview. All right, now. Okay, closure practice. Remember, a closure is a function that retains the state of its environment. That makes it useful for tracking data as it changes over time, but it can come at the cost of understandability. When not to use the non-local keyword. When the variable is mutable, such as a list, dictionary, or set, and you are modifying its contents rather than reassigning the variable. You only need the non-local keyword if you are reassigning a variable instead of modifying its contents, which you must do to change immutable values such as strings and integers. Let's try a closure without the non-local keyword. Complete the new collection function. It takes as input initial docs, a list of strings. Okay, let's just comment that. returns a function. We'll call it myfunc for now. A function that accepts a string, closes over a copy of initial docs, i.e. has access to a copy of the initial docs from its scope. Do I pass initial docs into whatever I'm going to call my function? It does that. It appends the input to the closed over list, returns the updated list. Example usage, my collection. I could call it collectioner. Is that the right kind of grammar? My collection equals new collection, doc1, doc2, doc3. Print my collection of doc4. It adds doc4. Print my collection of doc5. It puts doc5 in that. Let's do it with the name myfunc for now, and without passing in initial docs. I don't think so, because I think it's available like in the inherited scope. My string. Look at that. It gives me an autocomplete for initial docs, which implies that it is in scope. Initial docs.append. Oh, before it was twisted. Let's make a note for later. How both that was a half-formed idea. I'll maybe come back to it later. Anyway, the initial docs.append my string. And you know what? My string is a string. Sure, why not? We return initial docs, even though it's not really initial anymore. So the interesting thing is, we're not defining initial docs like we did with over in this screen, count plus equal 1. What we're doing is closer to saying foo equal count. No, it's not close to that at all. But we do take initial docs, in a sense leave its value alone, but in another sense call a method on it that mutates the inner data. That is interesting. Okay, let's run. Oh, my SRT. Try that a little better. Failed. You should not modify the initial list. Okay. A copy. Is it a deep copy? Probably not. Anyway, it's a list of strings, so in this case, it doesn't matter whether it's a deep copy. Yeah, of course I had to copy it. It said it right there. And then I type something silly like initial dosk, so, that's not going to work. Docs copy. Oh, yeah. It's docs copy that we use. There we go. Pass it. Oh, we got Cheddar. Cheddar says, wanted to learn Python, and I have zero idea how to start. That's interesting. What do you think about that? To start, prove to yourself that you can run a Python program on your computer. Things go a lot faster if you can run things locally. Make it the simplest, well, maybe not the simplest, but make it a simple Python program like, oops, that ain't it. There's your Python function. Save that as whatever.py, main. Make it main.py. Python main.py. See if you can get it to print to give you the words "Hello World." It's a time-honored tradition for programmers to start with a print "Hello World" program. And once you've done that, you've removed some blockers, and you're that much closer to writing something interesting. Also, check out Boot.dev. They start with Python, I believe, and you can get your fingers dirty with that in an online sandbox on their website. Also, the Python.org website has some things you can read about Python. Any courses you can recommend? Yeah. I mean, this right here, Boot.dev, is a website with courses, including about Python. So that's, I think you don't need the www, but I'll be embarrassed if that's not true. Let me just, you know what? I'm pretty sure that's it. Come back and let me know if that doesn't work. But also, Python.org is a good one. Where were we? Okay, it's not complaining now. Sure, I'll take a look, says Cheddar. Sounds good. Hope it goes well for you. Python is a pretty groovy language. Python is not the groovy language. That's a different language. But Python is a good language. All right, let's submit this. Yep, got him. Closure practice. More practice. Doc should be able to add CSS styling to an HTML file. Do we mean like putting style tags in the HTML source? Or do we mean processing CSS to show us a web page? Probably it means adding CSS to the HTML source, but we will see. CSS uses selectors to identify the HTML element to add the style property. Essentially, styles are a chain of keys and values. A chain? Haven't thought about it that way. Anyway. P color red with some symbols in there that are important, but I don't want to say them out loud because that would be tedious, right? Selector P targets all P elements. Property color value red. Cool. Complete the CSS styles function. It accepts a nested dictionary as input. What is the structure of that nested dictionary then? It returns a function add style. Okay, let's go ahead and type return add underscore style. One, copies initial styles to avoid modifying the dictionary. Info, because we're dealing with nested dictionaries here, the .copy method will produce a shallow copy. The outer dict is a new object, but mutating inner dicts will still affect the original one. So you should import copy and use copy.deepcopy instead. Oh, we do want to deep copy. I thought we wanted to. Okay. So we go on deep copy. Copies initial styles to avoid modifying the original dictionary. We want to leave the original dictionary alone. Let's call it deep copy styles equal not initial styles.copy. That would be what they told me not to do. We have copy module dot deep copy on initial styles. That's going to give us deep copy styles. I just hit escape because I'm in Vim mode. In my mind, I mean. What's this indicator up here? That's confusing me right now. Let's not worry about it. Returns an add files function, so we need to define that add style. That takes 3 string arguments, selector, property, and value. Checks if the selector exists in the dictionary. I'm assuming top level of the dictionary for this. If selector in deep copy styles dot keys if selector not in, we could also do if not selector in deep copies, I believe. If it's not there, then creates a new dictionary for the selector value. I don't know what that dictionary is going to be, but let's create it. At key, the key should be the selector, I think. And we define some kind of dictionary. Then adds or updates the property with the given value for the selector dictionary. Okay, what is the selector dictionary supposed to look like, though? For example, okay, here we go. Body, background color white. Oh, key values in a Python dictionary. Yes, good. Color black. H1, font size this, padding that. Let's say selector dict equal to deep copy styles at. Now we have that as a convenient variable to lower our cognitive load while we figure this out. Now, if property in selector dict, we might want to do this the other way around. Do I need to do dot keys? And it makes it easier for me to think about it right now. So yes, I do. Then adds or updates. Maybe it's simpler than this. Maybe I can just write selector dict at, not Diddy, dict at this will either add or update it. It can overwrite a value if it was already there, which I believe is the behavior they're going for. And let's just throw this out there and see if I got it. I got a feeling I made a mistake, but... Oh, no. It worked. Now the question is, do I study my written code to look for edge cases, or do I just figure I got it right? I figure I got it right. Boom. Yes. Currying. Let's make a note for... Function currying is a specific kind of function transformation where we translate a single function that accepts multiple arguments into multiple functions that each accept a single argument. Oof. What's that going to look like? This is a normal... Okay, normal. 3-argument function. Box volume of 345. Oof, this looks bad. Why does that... Well, I guess, okay. Box volume, 345. This is a curried series of functions that do the same thing. Oh. Box volume. This expands my concept of what can be done with Python. It's like, so we're chaining functions. This is interesting. Maybe this goes back to where they said CSS is a chain of key and value. Maybe. Here's another sample that includes the implementations. Define sum of A and B. Okay, we're just doing 2 levels to it this time. Return A plus B. Print sum. Wait, we're defining sum. That's not great style in Python because sum has a... Right? I don't think it's a keyword. I think it's a predefined function. It's automatically available. Anyway, you can override it. So I guess we're doing that. Define sum A and B. Return A and B. Print sum 1 and 2. We get 3. So far, so good. But now, and the same thing curried. Define sum of A. Define inner sum of B. Sure. The inner sum returns A plus B. The sum of A returns inner sum. Print sum of 1 of 2. Whoa. Okay. That's a neat idea. The sum function only takes a single input A. It returns a new function that takes a single input B. This new function, when called with a value B for B, will return the sum of A and B. We'll talk later about why this is useful. Okay, good. Assignment. In doc-to-doc, for some types of text files, we need to transform the font size of the text when rendering it on screen. Okay. Fix the converted font size function. We're using a third-party code library that expects our function to be a curried series of functions that each take a single argument. Converted font size should just take a single argument, font size, and return a new function. The return function should take a single argument, doc type, and return font size multiplied by the appropriate value for the doc type. So at the end we get an int or a float, but a number. Before that we're returning a function. At the end we get a number. Converted font size. Fix the converted font size function. The returned function, we're returning a function. Let's look at the tip. You can always reset the code to see the proper font size multipliers if you accidentally change them. Well, let's just... Oh. Well, wait, what? Oh, it's... Huh. Okay. Let's just save a commented version of the code in case we need to go back to it. Okay, it should take font size, but it should not handle doc type. Which means this whole if doc type stuff is not relevant here. We'll just call it a new function for now to tell us where we're going. The return function should take a single argument doc type and return font size multiplied by the appropriate... Okay. So this is where we bring in these if ideas. Ooh, holy indentation, Batman. I guess we gotta have doc type here. Is that all? Oh, okay. I mean, looks like it. Yep. You've earned a sharpshooter chest. Show me that sharpshooter chest. I do like the dopamine of the games on this website. Got 2 gems. Oh, we can go and buy an activate potion. Nice. XP bonus. Very good. Why curry? It's fairly obvious that define sum a comma b return a plus b is simpler than define sum a, def inner sum b return a plus b return inner sum. So why would we ever want to do the more complicated thing? Well, currying can be used to change a function signature to make it conform to a specific shape. For example, define colorize converter and doc something something converter doc something something. The colorize function accepts a function called converter as input, and at some point during its execution it calls converter with a single argument. That means it expects converter to accept exactly one argument. So if I have a conversion function like this, define markdown to HTML doc asterisk style, I can't pass markdown to HTML to colorize because markdown to HTML wants 2 arguments. To solve this problem, I can curry markdown to HTML into a function that takes a single argument. Or you could rewrite colorize, right? Define markdown to HTML of asterisk style. Define asterisk MD to HTML of doc. Do stuff with doc and asterisk style. Return asterisk MD to HTML. Markdown to HTML italic equals markdown to HTML italic. Colorize markdown to HTML italic and doc. When passing a function around to be called later, it blank how many arguments the function accepts. It does matter. Clearly it matters. Yeah. When should you curry functions in Python? Rarely, only when it serves a clear purpose, never always. Yeah, well, obviously the rarely is the right choice. Currying practice. Remember, currying is when we take a function that accepts multiple arguments. Final volume, box volume 345. Print final volume 60. I feel like we did 2 very different things in the addition example, or the volume example, which is multiplication, and in the one that we wrote, which was more about packing an option into the function. Okay, and convert it into a series of functions. Yeah. Box volume of 3 returns a new function that accepts a single integer and returns a new function. Yeah. Box volume 3.4 returns another function that accepts a single integer and returns a new function. Box volume 3.4.5 returns the final result. Here's another way of calling it, where each function is stored in a variable before being called. With length 3 is box volume of 3. With length 3 width 4 is with length 3 of 4. Final volume is with length 3 width 4 of 5, and print final volume 16. Here are the function definitions. Define box. Oof. This is quite a thing. Define box volume of length. What's the point of all this if we're just doing length times width times height in the middle, like a reasonable person? I don't know. Assignment doc needs to be able to find the number of lines in a document that contain a specific sequence of characters. For example, given the following document, A, B, C, D, A, B, how many lines contain the sequence AA? The answer is 2, AA, and AB. Complete the lines with sequence function. It should return a series of curried functions so that it can be called like this. Num lines equals lines with sequence of character of length of doc. The sequence is generated by the first with character that has been provided for you. It works like this. Character length sequence. A length 3 AAA. B length 2 BB star length 4 star 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 star. You need to define and return a second curried function. I called mine with length. Yeah, we'll call it that. It should accept the final parameter, a doc string, and return the number of lines that contain the sequence. Okay, well, define the line with function inside the with char function. Here's where they're telling me to do it. Def with length. It should accept a cod. Come on. Doc. Yeah. Split the doc into lines. Okay, lines equal doc dot split on a new line. Use a loop if you're feeling fancy. I'm not feeling fancy. I'm not going to import and use reduce, but I am going to count the number of lines that contain the sequence in them. What is this in link to? Probably Python docs, right? Python.org reference. Yeah, okay. We're just going to write a 4-line in lines. I'm not fancy tonight. I'm not feeling that. If... Oh, okay. Okay, I see how this is going. If sequence is, come on, if in line we'll do a counter plus equals 1, which means we need a counter out here. Return the count from the with length function. That happens here. Okay. Return the with length function from the with character function. What? Okay, we've got a level of indentation that doesn't have a return. That's where we're doing this. Fail. What did I do wrong? Expected 2, actual 3. How did we get 3? Watch this. If we start the counter at 2, we'll get an actual that's above the expected by 2. How about that? Let's try it with counter equals 0. Yep. Submit. There we go. Good. Currying practice. Markdown makes displaying images as simple as possible. To add an image to a Markdown document, just use this syntax. Bang, alt text, URL, title. Alt text, a brief description for screen readers and web scrapers, required for accessibility. URL or relative path to image. Title, shown on mouse hover, optional. Assignment. Doc makes using Markdown a breeze. This includes adding images to Markdown documents. Complete the create Markdown image function using currying. It takes a string input alt text. Enclose the alt text in square brackets prefixed with an exclamation mark, like this. We'll use an F string for that somewhere. F quote. Bang. Now a curly brace with alt text variable referenced there. Close with the brackets, and there we go. Don't know where we're going to end up using that, but we've got it. Define inner function that also takes a string input URL. We'll call it foo for now. We'll give it a better name later. The inner function should first escape any parentheses in the URL by replacing them with encoded sequences. Ah, darn it. I don't know what the encoded sequences are, so I still have to look at this link. URL encode-decode.com. That's an interesting website. Let's see what it's got. Come on. Come on. There we go. Any parentheses in the URL? Why would there be a parenthesis in the URL? Oh, wait. It just tells me here what I need to do. That's easy. So URL switch to string dot replace our character that looks like this with our into the string %28. I was using escapes yesterday. I think I did it yesterday on something I was developing. Maybe I'll talk about that later. Anyway, we replace there. Then we dot replace again. And send with the other parenthesis into %29. It's like they're next to each other in the character table. And let's just store that back into the URL variable name. And close the URL with parentheses. I'll write it differently this time because I can. That's also valid. Add the enclosed URL to the end of the alt text. So we take the alt, I'll call this a markdown stub for now. And we take the So we have bang, alt text stuff, URL here. Define the innermost function. Okay. But what do we do with this? Let's define a temp variable for now. Define the innermost function. It should take an optional string input for the title equal none, def title equal none. If title is passed. So how do I write this comparison? How about if title is not none? That should be okay. Enclose it in double quotes. So an F string with double quotes with title like that. Then add the quoted title to the image syntax by first removing the closing parenthesis from the end of the image syntax. Well, this is annoying. I'll do it by index. I don't want to do it by character. So here we've got temp from all but not including -1. Add a space. Return the finished image syntax. So that's a string now. We'll do that. This else. Is it just, does it stay the same? Let's call this finished image syntax. That's either going to be this construction or just that, and then we can turn finished image syntax. Return the innermost def. Oh, this is not good syntax here. Call that bar for now. Return the bar that we defined, return the foo that we defined, and oh, that's not right. Let's do a test run now, even with these silly variable names. Fail. Oh, you know what? We're missing an end parenthesis, probably because I didn't put one here. There we go, those passed. Now, let's get some better names. Kind of like a red-green refactor way of doing it. Let's call this just MD for Markdown, because it's going to be Markdown in the end. And can I don't want to use the same name going down. Let's call this with title. Let's call this possibly with title, because there may not be a title. I'm calling it one again. I'm calling it with URL, but I'm not sure that's quite the right name. Create markdown image. Finish it with possibly a title. So the usage would look like my alt text goes here. Oops. That gives us with URL, so we call that with a URL here, and we call that with, we'll call that with just the default none, and that returns, that all returns a string. You know what, I'm gonna just submit this and then see what they called it. I can peek the solution now that I've successfully submitted. Add URL, add title. Create markdown image. This is interesting stuff. Okay. Now querying practice. Doc should include a feature for image resizing, allowing users to adjust image dimensions to specified ranges. This ensures that images in documents fit and aren't freakishly large or hilariously small. Assignment. Complete the new resizer function using currying. It should make sure the image dimensions are never smaller than the minimum width and height, or larger than the maximum width and height specified. Info. Check the example at the bottom to see how it is intended to be called. In the check how it intended to be called. Example at the bottom. New resizer with these sizes, with those sizes, with whatever that is. That must be the actual image, right? Yeah. I'm going to build from the inside. Do a sarcastic number of tabs in to just get us started. Def and innermost. Def innermost. I'm going to call this get new image size. That takes integer inputs width and height. So we got our width, we got our height. Use the built-in min and max functions to reduce width if it's above max width, or increase it if it's below min width. Let's just trust that those will be there when we need them. So reduce width if it's above max width. So if we look at width and max width, it said reduce, so we must use min. Right. So if the max width is 500, but if the width is 600, we'll get 500. Now we can say width equals this. And we can say height. Oh, but also width equals maximum of width and min height. And conceptually, only one of those will have a meaningful effect, so it's okay to write both of them, I guess. Well, we need to write both of them. Now, same pattern, min of height, max. Like so. Return get new image size. No, don't call it. Just return the function thing. For some reason, I feel like quoting the Beatles there. Now, going back. Wait, am I gonna? Did I? All right, let's read from the beginning now. Complete the new resizing of function using it should make sure the image dimensions are never smaller than the minimum width and height, or larger than the maximum width and height specified. In new resizer, define an inner function that takes two optional integer inputs, min width and min height, with default values 0 and spotty. I'm going to call this def. Oh, this definition handles. Okay, yeah, I see this. I see it now. Def inner function. What am I going to call it? Newer resizer, I guess. Newer resizer. That's just silly, but I'm doing it anyway. That takes in two optional min width equals 0, max min width, min those things. If min width greater than max width, or min height is more than raise, exception with minimum size cannot exceed but if that doesn't happen, we continue. Return the new width and height. Oh. We're not returning the function, we're returning a tuple with width and height. Not using that name. Now here's the part where we pay for our sarcastic indentations. Actually, I don't have to unindent. Python allows any amount of indentation so long as it's consistent. I could probably break that if I put in like a million spaces, but I'm not going to do that. I kind of want to see where that breaks. Write this Python code for Python for I in range. Make it just a simple one. I'll do We'll do a counter. Oopsies. Okay. This equals 1. And then we print counter. Straightforward Python function. But use like 1 million or so spaces of indentation instead of the normal 4. How many indents for Python complains or gives up or something? Anyway. At the level where we define that, we're going to, oops, all right. Is it? Oh. Yeah, okay, I need to pull back at least some of these. Also, wait. Yeah, this is not okay. Can I do this? I didn't return there. Right. At this scope we need a no, at this place we need a no. I'm confusing myself with this added indentation, but at this point I want to demonstrate it. So close. Is it a typo? What did I do? Expected error. Minimum size cannot exceed maximum size. Is it a... Oh, pass. That's not the problem, child. Where's the problem? That's fail. Where did it fail? Image size 500, 400. Expected 800, 600. Actual 600, 600. Where did that come from? I probably just typoed something here. It's probably in here. Width is the minimum of widths or math width. Width is the maximum of width and min height. Oof. How about min width here? Okay, let's ship it. There we go. Now, it's 21:36, about 9:30 Central Time Zone here. There's one more chapter in this thing. How many? Yeah, no. Save this for tomorrow. Yeah. So, I'm just going to write a thanks for watching note in my text editor. And I'll intend to wrap up this functional programming with Python course tomorrow. So yeah, I think that's it. Thanks for watching.